In terms of the overall strategy on this job, like a lot of incidents, right in those first moments, there are a lot of unknowns. So there are things like how much even oil is being lost, things like how sensitive is the environment, what's going to be impacted. So the strategy for this site was issued 72 hours after the derailment. Really, really quick, and it's really, really clear. It was about, number one, gaining control, and we measured that over days to weeks. The second one was removing oil. That was measured over weeks to months. And then the third step is just proving that all works. And that was being measured on over months to years. That first step, gaining control, that was about containing the flow of oil and containing the flow of water around the site.
Myself and the group hazmat manager arrived on site first. We worked closely with the fire brigade to bring down the temperature of the tank. Once the fire had been put out, it was then handed over to Adler and Allen to start the response and implement the containment. We needed to mobilise tanker support, the rapid response vehicles and various teams.
I didn't fully understand the size of Adler and Allen and the amount of resource that Adler and Allen had, and it was a really comforting thing to see on site as to how well it was managed. They took control of the site, they took control of what the remediation process should be, and the people that we were dealing with on site were absolutely fantastic.
We had an initial meeting with the stakeholders as soon as we got here, and that's where we offered the rest of our services out, from the ecologists to the consultants to the SCAT surveys. I think we brought the drone guys in then to start doing the drone surveys. It pretty much just called all our services in straight from the beginning.
When you see the extent of the expertise that was there to understand where the product was going and to contain that product and to skim that product, a fantastic job was being done.
We had our fuel uplift specialists, our response crews, we had our ADR tanker crews, along with all the consultancy, the ecology, and all the technical departments then involved.
The expertise that you bring to this is phenomenal, not only from a ground support to the ecologists, to the people who are taking the samples and understanding exactly what's going on. The expertise within the group is really vast, which is fantastic.
The rail line is situated in between two drainage ditches, and those two ditches join a river that cuts across it, and the river goes out to the estuary. So it's a really dynamic environment, really sensitive. If anything's spilled, the potential is there for that oil to move out into the environment really quickly.
We've got out at the mouth of the estuary, we've got large sand dune systems. Moving into the estuary, we've got cockle beds, which are commercially viable. Also, the tidal range in the estuary is the second largest in the country. This means that every tide there are areas of mudflats exposed which are important for wading birds. There are also important intertidal rockpool communities.
The focus was on the ditches, put some dams in place, put some absorbents in place, put some skimmers in place, just really control the flow of oil, gain control, and then we can move on after that. We set up a grid of boreholes, regular grid. We worked out what oil was in the soil and where it wasn't. And then from that point, you can develop your remediation strategy. One of the key objectives to the whole remediation programme was to get the rail line open again. It's really massive importance to the local economy and to the local community. So one of the quickest and most effective strategies that we could come up with, and what was agreed with all the parties, was digging out the soil that was being contaminated by oil. So there was 30,000 tonnes of soil dug out, and that was stored on site in a temporary waste holding area. And that all went away for treatment. So that was a more environmentally friendly way of dealing with that problem. So we ended up with a big hole in the ground, and everything that was backfilled was locally sourced. So locally sourced stone, locally sourced topsoil, all pre-checked to make sure that it was in a suitable condition and suitable state before it was brought to the site. And then we had full confidence that we could put that in the ground and it would work normally. The next step of the remediation is actually a process called monitored natural attenuation, which sounds quite technical, but essentially what you're doing is you're allowing the environment to recover and behave normally, but you're just keeping tabs on it. You go along and you measure bits of water, you measure bits of soil, you're just making sure that the processes you expect to happen are actually happening.
In terms of the environmental monitoring and surveys, we established 19 locations to recover water and sediment samples from. We also identified 6 locations for scat surveys. As well as that, our ecologists set up shellfish monitoring programmes for the commercial cockle beds. They also carried out salt marsh surveys, equestrine and freshwater fish surveys, bird surveys and invertebrate surveys within the estuary.
The long-term programme is something that the regulator requires. A key part of it's basically backing up the remediation effort. It's proving that the remediation you've done is working and continuing to work, and it's proving that there's basically no impact in the environment. So the long-term work that we're doing involves, at the moment, we've been sampling waters every week. We sample boreholes on the site, we sample surface waters around the site, and that's really given us a great picture on the actual impact of the spill, which at the moment are 0. And we've been doing that weekly, and the plan is to go to monthly. And overall, the programme is expected to last somewhere between 2 and 3 years, and that's the level of information that the regulator needs to be confident that the spill has had no impact.
In terms of habitat restoration, we planted 425 trees across the site, including alnus, oak, birch and willow. And also down by the river, we planted wetland marginal plants in areas that often flood.
The key objective of all the work that we've been doing since the spill is to return the site to the condition it was in at the start. And you look around us now, you look at all the grass, you look at all the trees that are coming back, you look at all the wildlife, all the flora, all the insects, all that stuff, all of that, it's there and it's coming and it's growing, and all it's going to continue to do now is just going to get better and better and grow and come back to what it was at the start.